know how we all have that one friend that weirdly knows a ton about finances and is always down to help you with yours? Of course you don't. We're all lost and alone, and it's terrifying. Well, not anymore. Meet Experian, your BFF. And by that I mean big financial friend. I'm telling you, Experian is going to be your go-to app when it comes to handling finances like a grown-up. And this big financial friend always brings the DTF energy. Down to fix things, that is. The Experian app finds ways to help you save, matches you with credit cards, and even shows you your FICO score when you're up for it. Bet your other BFFs can't bring it like that, huh? Anyway, it's easy to take this big financial friend along for the ride. Just download the Experian app and get started for free. Link up with your BFF, and before you know it, you'll be finishing each other's finance goals. Results will vary. Credit offers, approvals, and reward programs based on FICO Score 8 model and subject to lender terms. Offers not available in all states. See Experian.com for details.
Edit audio.
Okay, so back in my very early working days, I lied at my job. I acted like my girlfriend was really a boy, and every time I said the fake name, I deeply ugged inside my soul. Now, a little bit after that, I moved into the lying by omission phase, where I kept quiet and shared nothing about my dating life or love interests. Now, as a young stand-up back in the day, I actively created bits about guys and sex. Like, I'm just like cringing as I'm saying this, which in hindsight, it's actually kind of hilarious. I mean, I picture people in the audience whispering things like, she's not a lesbian, but why the cargo shorts? I was afraid of blowback in my career, and truthfully, I was afraid of what folks thought of me. And I'll tell you what, not sharing my whole self, it kind of took a toll on me. I mean, I was fearful. I was worried about people's judgment of me. And more importantly, I didn't feel right because I couldn't be me. I knew I had to figure out how to express myself and not worry about what people thought about me. Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, well, being your authentic self. Hello, all. Ooh, have I got a good one for you. Okay, today, Teeny joins us, and she has a very big question. How can she be open about polyamory at work? Now, she's in a relationship, and she wants to be able to speak about all the regular stuff that people BS about at work. You know, what did they do over the weekend, and who did they do it with? Without worrying about what her coworkers are thinking, without feeling like she has to explain her life, and without the slights and the reproaches that people feel so comfortable dropping in a conversation like, oh, well, good for you, but wow, I could never do that. So the big question here is, can we help Teeny find a way to tell folks to just buzz off, or maybe not worry one bit about what they think, or maybe trust in her picker and decide who to let in? But before we get to that, if you'd like to come on the show and pick apart a problem with us, just like Teeny, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and DM me at RealRobHops on all the socials, or you can email us at hello@editaud.io. All right, let's get to Teeny.
Hi, my name is Teeny. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, the heart of the Midwest. I'm a product manager, which is pretty boring in my day job, but it's not bad. It's pretty fun. Grew up dancing, living my authentic queer life, but later in my adult life, because I grew up Catholic and a lot of folks around me get married and have the babies and do the traditional life. So I feel like I'm an untraditional type of gal that finally is living freely. So I'm very happy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, what's the situation that you want to kind of pick apart today?
I would love to talk about how to be open about being polyamorous at work while protecting myself from judgment.
Okay. Are we talking just work, or are we talking everywhere with people you know and that kind of thing?
You know what? Everywhere probably makes sense. But I don't know. For me, I'm a person like authenticity is one of my core values, and I don't like to not be who I am.
Yeah.
And coming into my job, we have a really great like Pride employee resource group, and it's been really supportive. I'm actually on the board now this year, and I have found that talking about being poly is just, it's harder to do. It's not as understood, even within the queer community. And I think I'm a little bit, I struggle with labels in general, but I am more, I guess, solo poly, if you would say. Like, I live alone. My partner lives alone. She has other partners, but like right now I don't. And so sometimes it's hard to like justify, I guess, that I am still poly, even though to me, my lifestyle is that way. Like, I prioritize myself and my self-love, and it allows me to pour into so many relationships. I have like beautiful friendships that are basically partnerships as well. And I don't know, this just really works for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you want to talk about what you're doing on the weekend. And it's like, oh, I'm dog sitting at my partner's house because she's traveling with another partner. And it's like, well, if it makes you happy. And it's like, okay, that's a weird thing to say. Like, it's like almost they think it's not my choice, but I don't want to like hide about my life. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It reminds me of like a couple of things, like as a lesbian in the 90s, like trying to figure out my work path and that kind of thing. But you said so much about like authenticity and wanting to be honest. And I guess before we like delve into like how you're approaching it, I want to know, like, is it as clean as you just want to be wholly yourself, or is there worry about repercussions at work, or worry about like, will I be up for a promotion, or is there any internalized shame? Like, are you able to kind of like pull all of that out? And I only say the shame part, not because I'm projecting on you, but because that was a thing for me back in the day. So I want to be clear about that.
Valid question. I don't necessarily think that there's any kind of repercussions at work. I will say, like, this is my longest term relationship and my first like out poly relationship. But I think it's just a newer topic for me to feel comfortable in, and just like owning who I am and trying not to have second thoughts about it. And I think, you know, you bring up shame. That's the way of the Catholics, of like shame and guilt, right?
And it's the way of the gays and the LGBTQs. Like,
also true.
It's not just ours, it's society's that's been handed to us, how we were raised, and then some of it's ours. But it's ours because of society and the way we were raised. Like, we didn't come
so
out
true.
shamed.
Right. But I think there is part of it that's like, you know, there's a right way to live, right? And there's like something inside of just like pulling me back. And I sometimes will have to question, like, is this even my belief, or is this somebody else's that's being put onto me? Yeah. Because I think I know in my heart of hearts, like, I start every day like meditating and journaling and just like really grounding myself. And I know that I'm living the best life for me. I know that the path I'm on is right for me. I know I am loving myself and coming from a place of love. But then you start to have other people's opinions and thoughts and their facial cues and, you know, their judgments.
Facial
and then it's
cues,
like,
yes.
Yeah. And then it's like, it throws me off a little bit. And then I think I don't sit with it enough to know if it's like shame or mine or not. And I'm just like, oh, maybe I said too much. So I guess that is putting it on myself where I shouldn't be.
But it puts you in a position where you are having to like look at everything and be like, did that mean that? Like, I do that sometimes with my kids as a gay parent. I'm like, did that parent say no to a play date because we're gay? Or were they really truly just busy? And so sometimes it's like, I have to look at what's my baggage that I'm walking in with.
Well, and I came out as bi, and I had, you know, my initial entrance into like a queer community was a group of lesbians. And when I had like a guy ask me out, it was like, I was almost shunned. So there's that kind of internal LGBT like
politics of the gays.
Yeah. And it's like, that's why I think now I just kind of say queer, because I am capable of loving anyone for who they are inside. And all of my relationships are different. Like, they're all uniquely what they are based on what the two of us are capable of mutually. And that can be any level of depth. And I think that's, again, why like the umbrella term of poly or non-monogamy has always just made sense to me, because how can any of this be, you know, put into a box or a category or ranked above something else? And I also, my partner and I really agree on this. Like, we're going to meet people in our lives where we connect and our souls light up. I mean, I have done that in every time I travel, every, new group I enter in, there's inevitably somebody that I connect with in some way. And having the ability to explore what that can be mutually is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not like actively like trying to date or seeking someone else. I don't feel like I have, a bunch of unmet needs. Like I meet my own needs and I just have these relationships that add such beauty to my life. And I know my partner and I actually just got back from Disney World and like that was the most fun freaking thing. We were just like little kids, but it's like we travel together so well. We have a blast together. Like how beautiful. But I have other friends that I travel with too, and I do Christmas cards with and have all these other longstanding traditions. And it's like, I want them all to just be able to exist. And so many people, it's just like, again, the path is like, well, you and your partner have been together over 2 years. What's next? Are you going to move in together? Are you going to get married? Like, what are you doing? And it's like, that's probably never on the cards for us.
Yeah.
Like,
what's interesting about this is like, it's like what you're hitting on is this like, to me is like this age old question of society and like people like boxes. People like to be able to say that's red, that lives here. That's like, it just makes people feel comfortable. And I don't know if that's like just a society thing or if that's just like innate in us, but we tend to do that. But I think as people in the queer community, we're already not in the traditional box. So we're much more open to being like, yeah, no, I could also do that, or I'm interested in this. But I think sometimes the idea of I tend to think there's a space where people, if 90% of the people speak one language and we're over here speaking different languages, and that's 100% amazing. I love that we speak different languages, but I tend to think they're not going to understand what I'm doing over here because I'm speaking a different language. And that's like, it's going to take them a minute to get there. But I think that can get really confused with reading people's faces and wondering, because in that 90% are a lot of people who actually don't think what we're doing is okay and don't like it and think we should not be allowed to do it and that we're bad, horrible people for doing it. So I think it gets all mushed and collapsed sometimes. And I don't know. What do you think about? I'm curious what you think about all that.
Well, I think that too. And it is hard because those comments, yes, the facial cues, but then there are sometimes I'm just like, well, if that works for you, but I could never do it.
Oh, like, I hate that. I could never do that. I
could never. I would just be so jealous. Like, oh gosh, that is something I would not be okay with. And it just, how do you not read that as like, I am judging you for what you're doing? And
yeah, because they are.
Right. And it's like, that could not work for you, but it makes me feel like I have to go into explaining mode, right? Of just like, this is all about open, honest communication. Like none of this is like bad. Like this is all something that everybody agrees with and is actually happy. I love when my partner is happy, even if it's with other people or by herself. Like, why would that affect me? If I'm doing something else, why would I get upset about who she's doing something with? To me, it's so basic and makes total sense to me. And I'm curious, like, I don't know where this kind of branches off, but I've also, I feel like, encountered a lot of monogamous people that don't actually want to be monogamous. And they have that whole like cheating element or like, oh, I wish I could live that way.
Yeah.
But, oh, I could never tell my partner. And like, that's always like broken my brain because I'm like, if that's the person that you're supposed to trust and be committed to and love, why are you not comfortable to have an honest conversation with them about what could maybe work better for you?
Yeah.
Like, why would that person not support you? And I don't know, that like shadiness, it just feels so yucky to me. I'm like, wouldn't it feel better just to live the life you want to live out loud?
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's two things that you said. Like the first part you were saying, like they are judging you and they are saying something. And it's like, and that's like judging a person and being like, well, I could never eat sugar. Well, so don't.
Right?
So don't eat sugar. And you could easily turn that back and be like, well, I could never do what you do. But it puts you in a hostile position to have to be constantly reacting and justifying and explaining. And I could see where that would be a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to ask right now, what are your go-to strategies for this? One, you said you might go into explaining mode, but what do you have that are protective and help take care of you?
So I think a lot of times, like I said, I either explain or I kind of shut down, and I just like, it almost is that moment of maybe this isn't a safe thing to share. Maybe I've talked a little too much. Like maybe this person isn't safe. And it feels icky inside of me because then it's like rubbing with my like authenticity value of just like, oh, I maybe can't be myself here. And maybe I need to reach out to another person that does understand to feel a little bit more nurtured and like validated. Because it's like I almost lose the ability sometimes to validate myself when I get into those like questioning modes. Because ultimately that's what I want to be able to do is just own my shit and be like,
sure,
no, I'm living the right way. I love my life. It's all fine. I don't owe any explanation to anybody. But I do feel also like I have this need, I guess, to be understood and seen and accepted just for who I am.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not feel it feels like it has to be work to get to that point sometimes.
I have a feeling that this is going to land in buckets. Like I have a feeling that this is going to land in some people will be safe. And this may not be like amazing, but it might be something that protects you. But like buckets of there are safe people and you act one way. There are middle of the road people and you act another way. And then there are other people who you don't interact with because you know they will not support you and that will take a toll on you. But I want to ask this question, and I don't know if this is true. Is that not what we do with everything in our life to a certain extent? Like my deepest feelings or fears, I have some people that are really safe to talk to about it. I have others that I'm going to be like, oh, fuck it, I'm scared or whatever. And then I have some people that I am just like, we're going to go have a cocktail together, but I am never telling you anything because you're going to say something dumb, inappropriate, unhelpful, and make me feel bad.
So I think, yes, that does kind of apply to everything. I think where I'm at, though, is I don't really want the people that are in the like not safe category. I think that's my hard thing is like, I just want the safe deep. And I think I, in the past, have had this like, I don't know, if it's a false thought that like every person is capable of a deep one-on-one like connection relationship and like I can almost be best friends with everyone. And it's like, that's not realistic, but that's just what I want surrounding me. And I don't want to like be in the spaces where I have to be in that protective mode. It's so hard on my nervous system.
I know, but you got to work. You got to, you know, and work is a bucket of all the people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, part of this is just like fucked up because like we live in a world where like there is judgment. Like objectively, like if we lived in a perfect world, everyone could walk into every space and it would be like, great, we accept you as is, no questions, moving on. Like, but like that's never going to happen. I mean, we even talked about like within the like bubble of the queer community that you're in, there is judgment. And at one point you said, like, after you have these interactions, it's like, maybe I said too much. Maybe I, did this, blah, blah, blah. And I think that is like the thing I keep coming back to because like,
it's not yours.
It's not yours. And like,
right.
I always say this, like, we were talking about like lesbians and bi women, femme people, like, there is real trauma there for a lot of lesbians, and lesbians don't have to date bi people, but they also don't get to judge them. And like, that's the part that's like the fucked up part. Right. And like, I think that like nuance is lost a bit because it's like people shutting down. And I think there's like, I mean, also you've done this with like being bisexual and now you're doing it again with like being poly and like I'm sorry first of all because that is like it's judgment within the community, it's judgment outside of the community. I think that is just real, but like something that I think to focus on is like really embodying that like that is not yours to hold because like you are cool and beautiful and like deserve love, and like if other people like don't understand it or like shut down because of some like real trauma, like that's their shit. That's not your shit, know?
True.
Yeah.
And one of my daily affirmations that I try to ground myself in is like, I'm exactly how I'm meant to be. So when I have that too much, like I try to bring myself back to that. And like my enoughness is not dependent on other people. Like I am just who I am. But it is hard.
But here's the thing. I think we're having two parts of the discussion. And one is this idea of like utopia and what people should or should not do. And I think I think there's probably no one in the world that, well, maybe not true, but I think most of us agree that we don't want judgment. There shouldn't be judgment. We should be able to live judgment free. but I'm a practical person who's just like, I'm looking at Teeny, I'm going, but that's the world we live in. And we can talk all damn day long about how nice that is, but it's not. And that doesn't make you safe. And that doesn't take care of you because people judge. I mean, people judge what you wear. People judge how you stand. People judge how old you are, how young you are, how your weight, your, like, so it's like, this is the world. So we kind of have to, like, to me, find the path that's best for you so you are safe and taken care of, because you can't do shit about Billy Bob at the office who, goes to church and then has an affair and judges your life.
I think you can't do shit for like the person on the far, far end of that, but there is like a large group of people in the middle. And I feel like what I was trying to say with the like, it's not you to hold is like, I don't actually think that you need to talk to the people that are never going to get you. I think you probably know the people that don't make you feel safe, like from the jump. You don't need those people. And you especially don't need them until you like feel 100% safe in yourself, which is 100%. Probably going to take a long time because the world was not built to support you, And so that is shitty. But I think there is like some nuance in the middle where like, there's a lot of people that don't understand. I mean, first of all, like we have definition problems in the queer community. Like, let's just be real. Like no two people are agreeing on what the word queer means. Like there are so many like nomenclature problems.
Right. And that's hard for our messaging.
It's hard for the messaging. It's hard for people to like understand. I have multiple close people in my life that are poly, but in very different ways. And it's interesting if you are able to want to be interested and are a curious person about someone. And so that's where I would start is like, if these people are curious about you, you can decide whether or not to let them in.
And that's a good point, because I have had some people really lean in with curiosity and it doesn't feel like it's judgment. And they're just like, I have never
voyeuristic. You don't want either of those.
Too.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but then it's like, oh, I've just never understood this, and I appreciate learning about you. And you know what? All my needs aren't met in my monogamous partnership because I have friendships, and, we're just kind of trained to think that one person is your everything and, this like soul connection person. And it's like, well, actually, no, I do get my needs met in other spaces. And this is, kind of expanding my brain. I think that's what I want to do, is to try to just live my life authentically, try to get people to have more empathy and understanding and compassion so that they can go like not judge someone else, like take one for the team. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Well, that's why I think, Steph, we're saying the same thing ultimately is like, I want you to protect yourself. And that's why I think of like the buckets of people, like that bottom third, maybe it's an eighth. Like I'm just using thirds because it's visually nice, but like, you don't need to talk to those people. Like, I think there are people that I've worked with, like, I'm thinking of a co-op board I'm on right now. And there's some people on that I don't necessarily like or think they're good people. And I think the things they do are, sketchy and not honest. And so I can keep things very business, and I can keep things very like direct, and they don't get to access me, and I wouldn't give them access to me anyway. So I feel like your answer for that. I think the answer is really more that middle ground of the people like trying to figure out who is being voyeuristic and who's being curious, and trying to figure out who's safe. And it fucking sucks.
Well, it sucks that all the work is always on you.
On you.
Right.
But I guess that's the thing that I'm like, I think we're both saying is like, you decide when it's on you. You might be kind of like Robin and I, where we're like, well, let's talk about it. And surely like we can get to an arrangement where like we both see each other, and like, I'm going to like talk to everyone and like assume that I can bring them in somehow. And that just isn't always the case. And I'm sorry if I put that on you and that doesn't reign true, but it's...
No, I'm also a Pisces. We're the last sign. We relate to everybody because we have all of the signs within us. So I have always been a person that can find something to connect with another human on. And I usually am a person that bridges those gaps. So I do think like maybe it's a little too optimistic, but it's like I feel like I have a chance here.
It's not too optimistic. I think you are the perfect amount of optimistic. You're the perfect amount like that you can see connections in the world is like a beautiful thing.
It's aspirational.
Like you can choose when you want to share that and make those connections. And maybe it's just like you reframing that in your brain so that it's not people like sucking the life out of you. It's you choosing when you are like allowing them to see you.
Yeah.
I like
It's kind of like, you know how like younger people now are like, I never came out of the closet, I let you in. I'm like, that's so
Ooh,
hot.
they say that? I've
Like,
never heard that. That's
oh my God, yes.
amazing.
Oh, I love that.
And I love that because I'm like, it's true. I've been here. Like, you are the people that like I've already been here. I'm just like opening the door to let you in. And like, you should feel so lucky.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
I want you to have that energy.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I also know like therapy has done a lot of wonders for me, but like I feel connected to every living thing because I'm connected to myself and like this bigger love thing that's all innate within us that I can see so clearly. If someone else can't connect with me in that, it's because they don't love themselves. Like that's kind of the where I've gotten to be. I'm like, it is a them thing. And some people are not going to be able to see, understand me, hear me. Like, and it has nothing to do with how hard I tried or finding the right words. I think I like to try to like find the right words. And I'm like, I'm going to find the way that speaks to you. And it's like, no, sometimes it's really just where they are with themselves and it has nothing to do with me.
And yeah, even saying that, it's like you trying to find the right words. It's like,
Yeah.
you're doing fine. You're doing enough.
That's the things I think that like, and I don't know if this is like a what's going on in the world right now or if this is like an age thing for me, but I feel like in some ways I'm getting a little more cynical about this. Like, so it's refreshing for me to hear the way that you're putting this because I feel like I'm fighting against these feelings of like, there are some people in this world that will never have your back, will always judge you, will lie, and will not have your best interest. And I know that I have spent like my whole life coming at things and being like, well, like, surely if I just talk to them and if I just show them who I am and if I just show them that my intentions are pure and, you know, that they will, and it's like, no, they got a whole other game they're running. And it has nothing to do with me and it has nothing to do, it's just them and they have an agenda. And it's like, I think that the sweet spot is being more like you and less like me because you're being optimistic and still trying to see the good in people. But at the same time, you're like, that's your shit. And I don't have to step into that.
So true. And I think I have had a tendency in the past to think like, oh, I can love someone into loving themselves. And I like make that my project, right?
Oh
and
my
it's
God, I love that project.
Oh my,
Next
it's
episode.
like destroyed me, right? My whole freaking life. I'm like, oh. I've had to, unfortunately, like step away from some, you know, relationships that I thought were super significant and had all this hope and we're growing together. And it's like, oh no, you're kind of committed to hurting yourself and not breaking your patterns. And I can't do the work for you. And the more I think I do the work, it's like I just get onto another level. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of having to leave you behind. You know, and that's a hard thing for me to wrestle with too, of like, again, it's like the buckets, right? It's like, saying goodbye to someone that we know won't understand and isn't capable.
So hard.
It's sad because, again, I do feel that. I feel the hope, the humanity, the love. I know we're all cut from the same shit. Like, I just know it. But I can't make it my life's work to beat my head against a wall with someone who can't see it.
I want to hear like how you feel about this whole conversation because it seems very clear that you know that there are people that don't have best intentions and you're like, I don't have to fuck with them. And then you know that there's these other people and sometimes you're gonna choose to get in there and to help a little or try to help and then you know that you might have to let some of them go and there's grief. Like it seems like you have a real sense of this.
I'm really stable today. You caught me on a good day.
Yay!
I always joke and I'm like, it's a roller coaster. For the most part, I think I am able to, when I am grounded, when I'm in this place, I can get back to these concepts. I can kind of know this, but I still have a lot of times where I'm struggling and I just find myself like not finding the words and getting into that shame spiral. And sometimes it's our relationships that I want to be, like maybe it's family, right? And it's like, this is a newer concept for them. And they're not people that I want to not have a relationship with. Like that's different from the work bucket because they're not just people I can be like, oh, I'm never going to understand you. It's like, no, I want really strong relationships with people that I'm, you know, related to. And I know that there's still probably some of those folks that are not going to understand, but
yeah.
That desire to be like loved and approved by family. Like, I know I'm loved. That's not something that's a question, but
approved is another thing, though. It is.
It is.
You want people's approval. I do.
Yeah. And like, that's where that like, oh, I want to keep revealing more, but I feel like sometimes I have to hide. Like, it's like when I came out, it's like, okay, you're bi, but if you're dating a guy, there's no real need to like come out fully because there's still the shot that you could just end up with a guy and get married and have kids, So it's like until it's really relevant and you're dating a woman, we don't really need to talk about it. So it's like sometimes I'm in this place of like, well, unless I have like 2 full-time partners that I'm like out loud and like doing all this life with, it's not really worth talking about being poly because it's too hard to explain because, again, my version of poly is so foreign to most people anyway. So I think that's where, I don't know, I still feel a little bit of that internal struggle.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, like, let's take those situations where it's not great. What does that feel like for you and how does it show up?
So like physically, it's like a twisted in my stomach and it like makes me sick. But it is, again, it's that retreating, pulling back. I sometimes feel a little bit of fight within me of like, I want to try to like fight for my life and like try to be understood and get words out. But when I'm panicked and kind of in that heightened state, it's like no words come. Nothing is rational. I get super emotional. Like I end up like crying or like shut down and then almost an embarrassment a little bit of like, well, I didn't show up well. And like, now I need to sit and do this work to prepare for a potential conversation like this. So next time I can like control my emotions and get the words right because I fucked it up. Like, and I messed up my chance.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it sounds like when you're in that place, there's a lot of the blame's yours.
Yeah. I think that's my goal to like default is like, it's my fault. I did something wrong. That's the self-flagellation. Maybe it's the Catholic.
It's also the queer community. I think we're really darn good at it because we've been told for so long that, we're over here, get used to us. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we've been told that we're the outlier. So it's like, it makes sense that you would do that. So I guess I'm wondering, when you did come out as bi, did it feel very similar to like what's happening right now? Or was it easier or was it the same?
It feels pretty similar. It was actually really hard to come out as bi because at that time I had not really had an official relationship with a woman. And I think that's the other thing. Like, again, a lot of the people I grew up with, family, friends, it's like you're with your one person. The goal is to not even have sex until you're married. And, it's like the fact that this about yourself means that you probably were sexually promiscuous or in some way and you're doing things. And it's like, it almost felt like I had to have like a justifiable, like serious loving relationship to like prove my validity as a human. And I think that that's the commonality between these two of just like, until there is like something tangible that someone can see and know that like the love is pure, that they like, oh, this is truly what's happening and makes her happy. It's just like conceptual words. And it's like, I don't quite believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do then? How did you support yourself? What made it better when you were going through that? Or was it just eventually, is it like having kids and eventually you turn around and they know how to tie their shoes and you're like, oh, thank God, I don't have to put the shoes on anymore?
I feel like I didn't really have a lot of good, healthy, like support back then. I tried to expand my community. I think that's something I've tried to be doing constantly is like finding other queer people that are similar to me that I can have a discussion where I do feel safe and understood. And that's been really hard. I have had some folks that are not queer that have been super supportive and lean in with curiosity and they just like want to learn and support me. So that helps too. But I don't really feel like that got better until I was in a relationship with a woman that I was like out. So
on the one side, like just to start, you already proved you can go through this and you got to the other side. Like you've done it. You have that history. But I just am like having this image of like, you might be having like a little bit of like PTSD. Like this is such a familiar feeling. Like you're just like right back in this and you thought you were out of it. And all of a sudden it's like, fuck, am I going through this again?
That hits really hard. I've been doing like trauma processing, like EMDR and therapy. And it sometimes is hard to know like, what is a right now thing versus what's old stuff coming up in my body that is like a fear from a past traumatic relationship, situationship, but I haven't thought of it in this lens when it comes to like me being outed poly with the connection between me coming out as bi. Wow. Thank you for that.
Sure. I mean, every once in a while, something good comes out of my mouth. It's not always the case, but I'm often drawing parallels to how I feel. And it's like, I'm thinking of like, my therapist saying to me, like, because I'm experiencing the same echoes in raising my kids and my fears of what was done to me. And I'm afraid. And she's like, but your kids aren't being raised by your parents. They're being raised by you. And you aren't the same person who was going through this when you were, a little baby bi. Like, you're now this new person who's doing morning things. And I think the whole part of this journey starts with you, like, reminding yourself you're not there.
Yeah.
Like, this is different and new. And you have tools that you did not have. You have community. You have like the language to explore this. You know yourself so much better. You know what boundaries to set and what works, like who's safe, who's not safe. You even know that there are safe and not safe people. Like, you're in such a different place than you were before.
So true. So true. Another recent affirmation I've added is I'm that bitch. And I need to remember that too. Yeah.
You are that bitch.
I am that bitch.
No, that's not a phrase I can pull off.
I want you to add, I am that bitch. And they should be so lucky. Because that's, again, like...
Okay, that's it. Because that's the other thing is, again, it's that approval seeking, I think, is where that comes in still, of just like, not everyone should get to have access to my awesome. Like, I need to be in that space all the time. But I'm also the person that, again, beats myself up when I am not in this space. When I lose my connection, when I start to struggle and feel like I'm losing it, my default is to be like, how could you be back here? I thought we were healed through this. Like, and then that creates an even bigger buffer from me getting back to feeling connected to myself, because now I'm beating myself up instead of just being like, human, it's okay. You did your best. You're just a human. You're going to struggle with these things. Because again, the past trauma, the PTSD, like seeing it at that lens, it's like, of course you're having this reaction. Of course you are. Like, that's okay.
Yeah. And we're not perfect. No. Like, whatever your struggle is, like, I can't tell you how many times I'm walking through the park hiding and jamming Snickers in my mouth and being like, I can't believe I'm back here. But you know what? Okay, I'm back there. Then what?
Right.
But you're already doing so many things differently, like even taking a step to be like, hey, let's talk about this. Like allowing other people in to have this conversation. Like, you don't know me from anything. And like, this is a vulnerable conversation, and you allowed like me and producer Steph to get in here and like chat with you. Like, it's always about the first step when you're back. It's not about that you're back. Because we're all going to go back to our shit over and over. I find that exhausting, but it's true.
Well, and it makes sense, right? I mean, the brain, we run those same pathways over and
all
over.
Day long.
The fear reactions, it's like, it takes a lot of effort to choose new ones and to like continue to build them up. And that's what I've loved about EMDR, like therapy. It's like, oh, I can see all of the places throughout my life in the past where this negative narrative that's just me against me got founded and kept coming back and got strengthened. And it's like, well, of course that's going to take a lot to undo. And something else that's also helpful for me is just like getting out and taking a walk and being like, look at the fucking trees.
Snickers.
Right. Well, I mean, no judgment.
Yeah, you can have a Snickers.
But like, oh my gosh, there's a butterfly passing me. Like, I just feel lucky to be alive. I usually start crying and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm just on this planet and I can't believe it. And that helps ground me. So it's like, I got to just find the things in the moment that can take me out of that space and give myself that grace. And whether that be reaching out and having a conversation or just like getting in nature, putting my feet in the grass or something. But I want to help people. I think that's the other thing is like when I was talking about my job, like there's an element of like, I'm not doing enough, I think, and I know that like I am enough just for existing, but I want people to know that we exist, people to be safe to have vulnerable conversations or to start thinking about things differently. I want to broaden minds. I just want to help. I want to just like spread the love and just like hug everybody.
You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now, literally. I mean, it starts with conversations.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'm super grateful for this opportunity because I think this is a step in the direction of expanding that scope. And it's beyond just like the one-on-one communications with the people in my little bubble. It's like, how do I branch out? And this is a way to do it. So thank you.
Well, and you are having those conversations. I think it's the distinction that you don't have to have them, and you don't have to have them with everyone. You can have them when you want to and you feel like safe to.
Yeah.
And they should be so lucky.
Yes.
And
they should be so lucky. We often end a podcast where we're like, okay, here's the homework that we talked about, but I think that's not for this episode. I want to know what you, Teeny, what you would think you want to go through and maybe either continue to do or maybe what adjustments you want to make. It could be as simple as a reframe. It could be like, I'm going to do this. I'm curious if anything comes to mind.
I think some of what I've gotten out of this that I want to lean on with myself is, again, that the parallels to the past and knowing that I'm not in the same space now as I was then, and just to be able to trust myself a little bit more. And I think knowing that it's okay to protect my energy, knowing that I don't have to take on all this work, I think that that's a needed reminder that sometimes I struggle to give myself. So I think this conversation has helped me just to be like, not every single person is going to be worthy of the conversation, the change, and I don't have to take on the bulk of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that they should be so lucky. That is my new, we're writing that down in the daily journals.
Yes.
I know that I have struggled with self-confidence and self-love. That has been my biggest love story has been mine with me, and coming from a place of really not loving myself and thinking that I was worthy of a life to being like, oh my gosh, I don't even really have a lot of negative self-talk anymore, but it still creeps in. We're still human. Again, we're not perfect. And perfectionism mind is really hard for me too. So just settling into that, I think I will be able to hopefully, when I am feeling triggered or heightened or feeling that need to explain, just to be like, take a pause, take a breath. This isn't mine. They should be so lucky.
Yes.
I just wish for you more space, to notice when it's in your body, the feeling of ick, and to just have more space between whatever happened and responding. Because you actually don't have to respond. If someone says something shitty, you can full ass walk away.
Facts.
I love it. So I'm just going to go use the restroom.
More space there. And then if you feel so inclined, I do think at least something that's worked for me, whenever someone is like, oh, that could never work for me, or that could never be me, I always go, oh, interesting. What does work for you? Because I bet it probably wouldn't work for me, but I'm curious. And fucking flip it. Just be like, I'm leaning in with curiosity in the way that I wish you would for me. And you're not. So what are you doing?
I love that.
I think asking a question whenever you feel able to, obviously, if you're triggered and heightened, the words are not going to come, and don't punish yourself for that. But if you feel like you want to engage with this person and be like, hey, that actually was shitty, flipping it into a question, I think always makes people at least sort of question what they fucked up.
I love that.
This has been such a lovely conversation. And I love that you are you're your own ship guide. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I hope that you add me and producer Steph to your community. And if you hit one of those days where you fall off, you hit us up, because it's we'll be like, you're this bitch. You got this.
Yes.
And they don't deserve you. You just need more people telling you that.
I think you're right. I appreciate you both so much. This has been amazing. And it just has felt really freeing. I always feel really good after being vulnerable. I know that such growth comes through vulnerability. So I just appreciate the space to have the conversation.
Oh,
thank you. This was
you.
lovely.
That's so nice.
You have reached the well-adjusting expert of the day.
Hello, I'm Dr. Badiee. I go by Polytherapist on social media platforms. I am a professor and psychologist, and I specialize in polyamory and other forms of non-monogamy, as well as people of color and queer and trans populations. You are really likely, when you are coming out in your journey as non-monogamous, to experience a lot of backlash from society, and that can result in a lot of shame. And that's very, very painful. And the truth is, we live in a very monocentric world. And what I mean by that is everything is set up to where the default, the ideal relationship is considered to be monogamy. And so when you describe to people anything different from that, it's not that it's wrong, but it just deviates so much from what people have been so conditioned into believing is the right way, is the only way, really. So that's one tool. Like when you are feeling that shame, you can remember that people are not responding like that because you're doing something wrong. But it's because like it does deviate from the norms of society. Another way to sort of counteract that shame within ourselves is to also look at the actual facts. When you look at the research, monogamous relationships are not any healthier than non-monogamous relationships. So when you're dealing with that backlash, just remember that it's not necessarily grounded in fact. It's more grounded in prejudice. And also just to counteract that shame, I really like mindfulness, just taking deep breaths, being present in the moment. You know, if you're feeling that shame, sort of letting it pass through our bodies without, labeling it as good or bad. If you're met with microaggressions when you are talking about your non-monogamy, what you decide to do, I think, depends on several things. I think one really important factor is how close are you with this person? Because if it's someone that you are close with emotionally, or you want that closeness with them, then you maybe have more stakes in talking to that person and trying to discuss with them. Now, if you're experiencing microaggressions, though, from, let's say, a stranger or people online, I would say because it takes some energy to have those conversations, right? So I think you got to kind of pick your battles maybe in a way. Like, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone, first of all, but if there are people that you want to at least understand and not judge you, then I would maybe have a conversation. Consider what the microaggressions were. Consider how they impacted you. I personally love journaling, so I journal letters I don't send. So I will write like a whole letter to someone, and then based on what I write, I will decide what parts of it do I want to share with that person. I think sharing the impact of their words can be really important because, most of the time people don't have a bad intent necessarily, but the way that they said it has a negative impact, can be harmful. So I would definitely go into that conversation knowing what you want to share and trying to let go of your expectations of how the person will react, which is so much easier said than done because their first reaction might not be their last reaction, first of all. So how they might respond to you in that moment might not be how they are forever going to respond to you. But what I would say is put the focus on how can I explain things in a way that I'm proud of, in a way that I align with my integrity. Because that is all we can control. We can't control the other person. We can't make them understand us or accept us, but we can be our authentic selves to the extent that we feel, safe to do so. But sometimes I think it's about also just being committed to like, I'm going to share my truth. I'm going to do it in a direct but kind way, but I don't have any expectations of the external piece of this, like of how this is going to go. So that would be some of my advice for having those conversations. It can be helpful to have some go-to responses for when people say certain things. So a common statement that people that are non-monogamous get is, "Oh, I could never do that." Then my go-to response in that situation is, "I get it. I could never do monogamy either." And honestly, that's not even just a canned response. It's absolutely true. I can't do it. I can't imagine it. It sounds horrible to me. But generally, I would just be like, yeah, I totally get it because I could never be monogamous. There's a brilliant content creator that I follow. Their name is Marjorie Lane on Instagram. And they have a beautiful phrase, go where you are celebrated. And they say how going where you are celebrated as a marginalized person is truly an act of resistance. And that takes time, by the way, that takes some patience. You might go to several, many events before you find the people that are truly, you're truly going to be close to. But I think that is just as important as finding good partners is finding supportive community in non-monogamy.
What a lovely chat that whole thing was today, folks. And listen, before we go, I want to say thanks to Teeny for dropping by and sharing her journey with us. It was such a great chat. And I also want to say thank you to Dr. Badiee for popping in as our expert of the day. You want to follow her on Instagram, head on over to Dr. Badiee Polytherapist. And that's DRBADIEE, Polytherapist. It's in the show notes, y'all. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but like if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original series. It's exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Our producer and editor is Maria Passingham, and our production manager is Kathleen Speckert. Thank you to the entire Edit Audio team and to you for listening. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.